Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Veteran Crowd Network Live. I'm going to bring my guest, Ron Lewis, who is in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. Ron is a 1987 graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. He's currently the CEO and founder of LTC2 Consulting. He's a brigadier general in the U.S. Army, retired. He's also vice chairman for military affairs for the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce. Ron, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about Afghanistan. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks.
We really appreciate you being here. I'd like to start out, just share with everybody your personal experience in Afghanistan. You've served some combat tours in country.
Yeah, I have, Bob. Thanks. And to the crowd, everyone out there who served, and the families that sacrificed, and time away, and the losses that we had. I just want to say, my heart's full for that crowd. I've got a couple of tours on the ground, Bob. I spent 2008, 2009.
Hey, Ron, could you lean in a little bit to the mic? We might get a little better sound with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's much better. Yep.
Okay. Yep. No problem. So 2008, 2009, on the ground in Afghanistan as a brigade commander, commanded the 159th Combat Aviation Brigade. Really, I was the only combat aviation brigade on the ground for a good period of time during that window, as we had, 3 combat aviation brigades in Iraq. We were a little bit of an economy of force in Afghanistan at the beginning, and 2008, 2009, commander on the ground, 4 different task forces everywhere from Kandahar all the way to the northeastern tips in Nuristan, covering the entire country basically. So 2008, 2009, 159th Combat Aviation Brigade, incredible team, some incredible soldiers, pilots, Navy working with us, EOD, Air Force. I mean, just an incredible team. And during a tough period of time where we were doing most of the fighting, right? We had not built up an Afghan National Security Force at that point. We were doing most of the fighting. We were doing most of the dying. We were doing the coordination with Pakistan. And, that was a tough period of time fighting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and the Haqqani Network and TTP. Just a very
pretty dynamic environment.
Tough set of enemies that we were dealing with in 2008, 2009.
Ron, I'm an older guy. I never been to Afghanistan. Just for our listeners that, like me, haven't been there, could you just kind of give us some reference on the scale, the size of the country rather, in comparison to, it's about the size of.
Sure. Well,
you're talking about pretty massive distances here and a pretty diverse set of terrain and people and so forth.
Absolutely. The just from my perspective on task force distances, my task force that was in Kandahar, which is in kind of the south western portion of Afghanistan, to my brigade headquarters in Bagram, 200 miles. 200 miles distance from just Bagram down to Kandahar. Okay, and then my other task force, maybe another 70 miles up to the northeast. So it's a landlocked, mountainous, and desertous piece of terrain. There are places up in Nuristan that if you could open up a ski resort, it would look like Vermont. And then there are vast deserts. The wind's horrible. We used to have a little saying in our brigade that everything in Afghanistan is hard. It's like I said, it's landlocked, it's wind, it's mountainous, it's 10,000 foot peaks. Just getting delivery of things, just getting from place to place is hard, and we embrace that. We had little cards for every one of our commanders that said, WDHS. We do hard stuff, and just kind of embrace that. But it's a tough piece of terrain, bordered by Pakistan, which provides sanctuary, all that kind of business. But let me fast forward to the next time on the ground there. So I spent, beside visits, the next time I actually was stationed in Afghanistan was 2013, 2014. At that point, I was a one-star general, and I had a couple of different hats. Biggest hat was I was the commander of a train, advise, assist command. So now, fast forward to 13-14, we're now training, advising, assisting, building up the Afghan capacity so that they can counter their own insurgency. I also was the deputy commanding general for supply for the 101st. So I had the task of kind of bringing down our force from about 17,000 to 8,000. So retrograde and reduction of force while building up the Afghans. My counterpart was a two-star general by the name of Major General Waziri. He was the 201st Corps commander.
We're having a sound difficulty. Let's take just a quick second. If you could lean in and then start again, and let's see what happens if it clears up.
Okay, how about now, Bob?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, yeah, so again, 2013-14, job as the train, advise, assist commander with a counterpart by the name of Major General Waziri. He was the 201st Corps commander, which gave him 20,000 soldiers and really command of about 20,000 Afghan police as well in the 7 provinces that are to the northeast of Kabul. So General Waziri and I would spend every day together. My job was really to help him strategically lead that group of Afghan national security forces to be able to not only provide security in those provinces, tough provinces also, like Nangarhar, like Nuristan, like Kapisa, that kind of thing. But security, interact with the provincial government, interact with the federal or national government back in Kabul, deal with the economy, lead soldiers, strategically plan. So my job was really to help General Waziri be a senior leader in the model of American senior leaders. How well did we do? During that period of time, I thought that they were coming along. I am incredibly disappointed with the end, and I know you want to talk about that soon. But just know from for your visitors that I was in that role of training up those Afghan national security forces my last year on the ground there, a significant number of them. We would still give them capability as he needed it. I controlled U.S. air, and when he needed U.S. air to augment his capabilities, then I would judiciously give him air or intelligence sharing that I knew and perhaps he didn't know. Help with his logistics. He couldn't go around and visit his soldiers, so perhaps I put him in one of my Blackhawks and we'd go around and do what leaders do and check on troops and that kind of thing. So we were still providing some capability, but really it was the Afghans' turn to fight, to counter their insurgency.
Ron, this is in the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on. But I'm going to ask a couple of specific questions. I mean, one of the criticisms I think that's been tossed at the strategy is that we tried to implement a model and replicate the U.S. military approach in an Afghan army, and we're an integrated, sophisticated military machine, and one of the criticisms has been that it was a mistake to try to replicate that in the Afghan National Army. What do you say to that? People that say that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of partisan criticism and Monday morning quarterbacking going around, and I would just say, especially for those of us that wore uniforms and were apolitical, we need to be balanced, critical consumers of information.
Right.
We need to be balanced, critical consumers of information. There's a lot of blame to go around. There's a lot of mistakes that happened in Afghanistan, a lot over 20 years, beginning with why isn't it economy of force, all the way to the way that we left. What I'd say is a couple things about our system and their system. Why do we serve? why do we serve, and we're 1% to put on a uniform? Why do we serve this great country of ours? Several reasons, right? We've got a commitment to something bigger than ourselves. We're duty bound. We know that this country respects us, right? I mean, the country respects us when we're in uniform. We know that we're going to get paid on time. We know that our families are going to be taken care of. We know we're not going to be left on some hilltop somewhere with no one checking on us and not getting your mail and that kind of thing. We know that our country's system is not corrupt. For example, the taxation and money that goes in that should be put to the Department of Defense is coming to us. It is going to get to us. The fuel, the bullets, the things that we need to be able to fight as a military, those things are coming to us. They're not getting siphoned off somewhere and being sold on the black market.
You've just named the laundry list of things that the Afghan soldier couldn't depend upon.
That's my point. That's my point. Can you fix all of that so that inside of the heart of an Afghan soldier, what's pumping is this desire and intense duty to die for his country.
Is Afghanistan a country, or is it not a group of 200 tribes living in a region?
That's
I mean, I really don't think people identify as Afghans. They're Pashtun, they're Kurds, or whatever. Isn't that part of the cultural challenge?
That is absolutely part of the cultural challenge. Absolutely.
All right, stop for a second. All right, start again. Lean in. Where our audio went sour on us.
Okay, you got me now?
No, hold on. All right, one more time.
Okay, how about now, Bob?
Great. Don't know what it is, but it seems to fix it. So.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that is an issue. Are you some federated tribes and just provinces that are out there, or are you one big country that is run by the central government in Kabul? So that is an issue. That's an absolute issue. The other thing I'd say to that also, Bob, is the insurgency never really went away, right? Okay, we went in 2001 with an intended purpose of finding bin Laden, killing bin Laden, reducing the Al-Qaeda footprint for their attack on 9/11, taking back the sanctuary that the Taliban provide. So we did those things, but the insurgency never really went away. They were always out in the rural areas. The Taliban was always out in the rural areas, in the tough spaces that we could not get to.
Let me ask a question right there. When we killed bin Laden, was the mission accomplished, and should we have exited 10 years ago? There's this mission creep criticism. There's also, a criticism that, the Pentagon liked having Afghanistan. It was almost like a great place to go train people. It was, you need to go to Afghanistan and get this on your resume, almost, as terrible as that sounds. Was the military industrial complex pushing, us to do things?
Listen, Bob, those are all the right questions and good questions. Here's what I would say, though. A few things. We are still in Korea with a presence, and we've been there since '53. We are still in Germany, right, since World War II. I mean, we still have a footprint in Germany. So a question.
There would be an argument that it made strategic sense to keep 2,500 soldiers in Afghanistan for the foreseeable future, because that gives us that forward presence that is valuable.
With the ability to see, I mean, we're next to Iran, we're closer to Russia. Pakistan as an ally or not, we still can see there, right? I mean, so a way to think about that is we do have a military presence in a lot of places, and we've been there for a long time, albeit not sustained combat. but we have given that footprint up. That's a way to think about it. Another way to think about it is we went from counterterrorism, and we still were doing a lot of counterterrorism strikes all the way through the end here, right? Of select targets, and Al Qaeda pokes his head up, or ISIS-K, or someone else pokes their head up in Afghanistan. We have the ability to do counterterrorism. But when you go to counterinsurgency takes a lot. I mean, it takes a viable, non-corrupt central government that is synchronized with its military and its economy and its people to provide a viable alternative to what the insurgents are trying to do, right? I mean, and if the insurgents are providing the local security and allowing you to sell poppy,
right,
harassing and intimidating, it's still flourishing.
And you didn't have confidence that the NATO allies were going to remain. The saying in Afghanistan was, "You guys have the watches, but we have the time." But a quick response on tactics. I mean, can you think of a reason why we abandoned Bagram Air Base prematurely? I mean, is the answer to that no, or you wouldn't have done that, or?
Listen, I know General Scotty Miller personally. I've been in combat with him several times. He was the last 4-star commander over there, superstar, West Point grad.
Yep.
Special operator. So let's talk about a couple things here. One, it is very difficult, and I think it's a bad idea to outsource security. I think it's an incredibly bad idea to outsource security. What do I mean by that? When you're doing evacuations, when you're doing non-combatant evacuations, when you're doing evacuations, you want to get civilians and non-combatants out. You want to get equipment out, and then you want to get your security out.
Right.
In this case, we made an assumption that our security, while we were doing these evacuations, would be provided by the Afghan National Security Forces. 300,000 plus, we equipped, we trained, we gave them our best, and we made an assumption that our security would be the Afghan National Security Forces.
All right, pause for 1 second. Let's let our audio catch up.
Okay.
Important stuff. All right, try again.
Okay. Am I caught up with you now?
No, so we're still with the audio challenge. We'll go ahead and proceed. I'm sorry.
Okay, how about now, Bob?
We got to plow through it now, I think.
Okay, am I back with you?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay. Again, the assumption that our security would be the Afghan National Security Forces. They're going to remain. They're going to stay. Whatever the planning assumptions were on how long it would take before they collapsed, we expected that they would provide the security that we needed to allow us to do the evacuation. We can't outsource security. That's to me one of the top after action review points. You can't outsource security. So that's a thought. A second thought is when you're given a cap, when you're giving a number to remain on the ground as a planning figure, you can only have this many people, soldiers remaining on this timeline. By the way, the military told the administration it would take about 120 days to close down things. So you get an August 31st kind of date, an early September date based on the planning assumptions. Now, is it, who tied the 9/11 20 year to that? I don't know. That's the administration's way of talking about things. But militarily, the advice was it's going to take 120 days. So that gets you to about the end of August, early September when that planning went out. But if you're given a number and a cap, then you've got to make a choice. Am I going to secure Bagram, which I would have? Bagram is a securable piece of terrain that allows you to bring in your military aircraft. It gives you standoff.
Whereas the airport in the middle of Kabul is in the middle of a city of 4 million people.
That's exactly right. So So you get a planning assumption that you can either secure the embassy with that number and rely on Afghan national security forces. Then you get to the decision of shutting Bagram down.
Right.
So again, planning assumptions, outsourcing security, and then we ended up having to outsource our security to the Taliban, right, in Kabul.
Yeah, that's.
And then, you know, God bless the families. And
There's a marriage made in heaven right there.
Yeah, the 13 that we lost at the end were on an incredibly impossible mission, right? I mean, we've outsourced security. We have the Taliban providing outer perimeter security. Our 6,000 that we float in were providing security just at the airport to allow us to fly out. And then we're asking these young soldiers, sailors, Marines to touch everyone coming through the gate, to not allow a bomb to be put on we're asking these young Marines and soldiers in Navy to touch everyone coming through the gate so that we don't allow a bomb to be put on an aircraft and 700, 800 people are killed and an aircraft's blown up. I mean, what an impossible task. And you're counting on someone to provide the initial checks before you've got to touch them. So, I mean, that was incredibly tough for them. I applaud all of those service members that did that piece at the very end. I applaud all of them, but what a tough situation that they were put into.
Hey, Ron, two final thoughts to hit. You know, going forward, you think Al-Qaeda is going to move back into Afghanistan and try to reestablish a base of operations to threaten the United States?
I don't know. I don't know, Bob. I am concerned about that.
You don't get the company newsletter from Al-Qaeda. Let me.
No,
neither do I. You know, it's hard to say, right?
It is hard to say, but I do know that we will work every bit of our capabilities to be able to see and understand that as it's happening or before it happens. And we have limited our abilities to see and understand by us not being on the ground. You know, we've limited our ability. We've got some over horizon. We've got some things. I mean, you know that. But we're limited in our ability to see and understand first, and I'm concerned about that.
Ron, I wish we had more time. You know, we could explore the technology that's being shipped into Pakistan and Iran. Final thought. If we send a message to our allies and our adversaries that puts us in a little bit more vulnerable state in other parts of the world?
Well, a message to our people first, Bob, and then I'll talk about adversaries and allies. To our people that are up on the net that served, please don't think that your service was in vain. Please don't think that. We accomplished the counterterrorism piece that we wanted to accomplish. We prevented our country from being attacked for 20 years. Al-Qaeda was not able to attack us over the last 20 years of our involvement over there. We did make life better for the Afghans while we were there. We did. I look at the infrastructure that was built between 08, 09 to 13, 14, the hospitals, just the infrastructure, the roads that were built, the opportunities that provided for Afghan women and girls. So all of the entire force that operated over there, please don't think that your service was in vain. And, and the sacrifices that were made, and the buddies that were lost, and the time away from birthdays and family, from the bottom of my heart. I mean, please know that the country thanks you for that. So what is the message to the allies? I guess we do what we say we're going to do. We didn't do it at the end of we're going to get everyone out before we leave. And, circumstances changed, but we do what we say. We said we were going to withdraw. We negotiated a withdrawal with the Taliban. without the Afghan government there, which again is another mistake. My opinion, we delegitimized the Afghan government by not having them there at the negotiation table with the Taliban. But we set ourselves a timetable to end it. You can be on whatever side you want on should we end it or not. I'm on the side of I wish we had presence remaining. That's where I am. I really do. I hate to give up a strategic footprint someplace that we might need. But we do what we say we're going to do. We said we were going to withdraw. We talked to our allies about it, and we did that. I don't like the way we did it, but we did. I would say I hope the adversaries don't take the wrong message. This is still the United States military, the most powerful force on the earth, and I hope the adversaries don't miscalculate and underestimate the capabilities that the United States military has. I hope they don't.
Thoughtful and wise words. I'm praying that we will learn valuable lessons from this, whatever they are. Unfortunately, I think there's a blame shifting exercise going on in Washington right now that, where somebody needs to kind of step up and, say, look, we can learn from these mistakes. We've got accountability. These are the kinds of things. And unfortunately, a lot of that gets lost in the noise. Hey, Ron, thank you. You've been a guest on the Veteran Crowd Spotlight podcast in the past. Thank you for coming on board today and sharing your thoughts about this topic. I know there'll be a lot of questions and comments about this. We'll put information out and how folks can reach Ron Lewis. I've got his website up here, ltc2globalconsulting.com. And again, Ron, thank you for joining us today on the Veteran Crowd Network. I really appreciate you doing this. This is important stuff.
Thank you, Bob. It is. And again, critical, balanced consumers of the information. You watch the hearings that are going to happen. Tony Blinken, Secretary of State, up yesterday.
Yeah.
We just ourselves need to be, balanced, critical consumers of information, and know that there was important work done, and the country does appreciate what we did over there.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, wow. Well, again, our guest has been Ron Lewis, U.S. Military Academy graduate, class of 1987, a retired Brigadier General, U.S. Army, CEO and founder of LTC2 Consulting, Vice Chairman for Military Affairs, the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, and I'm looking forward to the next Hampton Roads Military Affairs Council meeting. So thanks very much for joining us, folks. Bravo Zulu to you, sir. I really appreciate it. And that's a wrap.
Take care.